Hi guys, so I'm gonna go through the different genotypes and phenotypes for ABO blood groups. So there are 4 phenotypes and 4 genotypes. You should have a chart like this, a paper version on the front table. If you want to add that to your notebook for a reference, as well as a Punnett square solving a genetics problem with blood types. You can certainly add that to your notebook as well for a reference. So the phenotypes for ABO blood groups have to do with these glycoproteins on the outside of your red blood cells. So one of the parts of the cell membrane, right, they act in cell-to-cell recognition, so cells recognizing one another. If you were to go look up what causes a blood type, it would say something about the antigens on your red blood cells. So antigens induce an immune response. Technically, in this case, they are glycoproteins on your cell membrane. So if you have A blood, you have A glycoproteins on your red blood cells. If you have B blood, you have B glycoproteins on your red blood cells. So that's why they're showing these different here. If you have AB blood, you have both A and B glycoproteins on your red blood cell membrane. Okay. And then if you have O, you don't have either one. Okay, so in this case, if we think about it in our genetics terms, it's the absence of producing that protein. Okay. If you have A blood, right, that's involved in cell-to-cell recognition. It tells your body those are your red blood cells. You make not antigens, you make antibodies for B. Right? So if your body were to come in contact with a B red blood cell, your antigens would attack it. It would tag it, and your body would destroy it. Same thing for B blood. You make antibodies for B. If you have a B blood, you make neither. That's why people with AB blood are sometimes referred to as universal recipients, because they can get A blood, B blood, O blood. They don't make any antibodies. They don't make any antibodies towards either one. And then O has both. So they can only receive O blood. They can give to anyone because they don't have those glycoproteins on their red blood cells. Sometimes they're referred to as universal donors, but they can only receive O blood because they're making antibodies against the other 2 types. Now, A and B are both dominant phenotypes. A and B are both dominant. I should say dominant genotypes or dominant alleles. So if you receive an A and a B gene, it is codominant. Here, I'm going to go to the codominant. There we go. I'm going to go to codominance. You receive an A and a B gene, it is called codominant, right? Dominant together. 2 dominant genes. Here, back. Before I get to genotypes and phenotypes. Because there is more than one allele, right? More than 2 alleles, sorry. We've been dealing with it's either this or this, right? You receive 2 of the same, 2 different. Because there are more than 2 alleles out there, we call it multiple alleles. There are actually 3 alleles for blood types. You can get the A gene, the B gene, or the O gene. Okay. If you are type A blood, you have either 2 A genes or you're heterozygous. You got a dominant gene and a recessive gene. If you're type B blood, you got 2 B alleles or you're heterozygous. If you notice here, A and B We've used a superscript because both of those genes are dominant. We've used I to represent a dominant gene and lowercase I to represent a recessive gene. But for blood types, there are two dominant genes. So we use a superscript to represent the A and the B superscript to represent the B allele. Okay, so if you're type AB, right, dominant phenotypes, you either have two A's or you're heterozygous. Type B, you either have two B, so homozygous dominant, or heterozygous. If you are type AB, there is only one genotype. You had to receive both dominant genes, an A and a B gene. And then finally, if you are type O, you are homozygous recessive. O is a recessive trait. Okay, so you are homozygous recessive. Again, codominance, because A and B are both dominant together. Or I should say, if you get both A and B, you will show both dominant traits. So let me just solve a problem. The cross between a parent with AB and a parent with O. So I know a parent with AB, I know their genotype. If I go back a page, I know they have a dominant A and a dominant B gene, because there's only one genotype that goes with the AB phenotype. I know the parent who is type O here is homozygous recessive. And guys, I'm not going to use the I's because I'm trying to use my mouse pad here, but I'm just going to use a big A to represent that IA, right? We know this is actually this. So their possible offspring, or their possible children, because these are humans, I'm going to use a B to represent that I with a B, right? And I'm just going to go over the questions over here. Okay, so all of their children in this case are heterozygous. Their genotypes, right? They're all heterozygous, 50% heterozygous for A, 50% heterozygous for B, and the phenotypes, 50% or 1-to-1 type A blood to type B blood. Okay. I'm going to show you one more cross, and by the way, this is the cross that's in your genetics of blood types, that very first one. So I'm showing the cross between a male with a B blood, FYI, right? This is the AB blood phenotype, and a woman with AB blood. What's their chance of having a child with O? So again, I'll go ahead and use their genotypes here on the outside, right? One parent has AB blood. I know that corresponds to this. The other parent has AB blood. And I'm, again, just going to use A's and B's in the, I'm going to make this I really small here. I'm just going to use A's and B's because it's too hard for me to write this with my mouse pad. So, right, they have one here that got two dominant A genes, right? Going to be A. Dominant A, dominant B. Again, this is one of those where it doesn't matter which way you write it, but alphabetically, you're going to see A come first. So you'll see it written A first. Again, going to get an A gene and a B gene. And then this last one down here, this one's B, that one's B. So this one is going to get two B genes. So 25% A, 50% AB, 25% type B. They are all dominant, right? There's codominance here, but there's no heterozygous or homozygous recessive here. So in order to have type O blood, you have to have 2 recessive genes. So the chance of them having a child with this is 0. Right? AB parents will not have a child with type O blood. Again, that's the cross of this in number 2. So to solve these problems, so in number 3 here, right, you're told what type of, what blood type the man has with type B blood. With O, there's only one option. Again, you're told in number 4 what the genotype of those 2 parents are. They're both heterozygous. So you're putting those in the Punnett square and analyzing the genotypes and phenotypes. In number 5, you'll need to do 2. And in number 6, right, you're just, those parents only have, there's one genotype that goes with their phenotype. Okay. So you can do this on a sheet of notebook paper if you want to, so that I can see your work, and then just turn it into the box. So just go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on a sheet of notebook paper, and then you can go back to the book and do page 156 so that you finish up 151 through 157. And I will check that in your book. Don't rip out all of those pages. I think it'd just be easier for me to go check them and then sign them off on your task sheet. Okay, so this on a separate sheet of paper in your in the box, and then page 151 through 157. This you're just doing 150. Well, you could finish them all, but you're doing 156 with blood types, and leave them there. All right, you guys have a good day. I will see you later.